more troops to the Central African Republic in order to end the crisis in the strife-torn country. Warned that France and the African Union cannot carry out their mission properly as they do not have enough troops. Meanwhile, the UN's aid chief, Valerie Amos, is on a visit to the country, from where she told France 24 they're doing all they can to help alleviate the humanitarian crisis.
We have been criticised for being too slow. We declared Central African Republic an L3, which is our biggest system-wide crisis that we can declare. We are making sure we have the right people here with the right skills, but it's an incredibly difficult environment in which to operate. And of course, insecurity is at the top of it, but there's no state. People have not been paid for months. I know that that's one of the priorities of the interim president. You need to build institutions. You need to make sure that communities are able to reconcile, are able to talk to each other, and that we actually get the systems back up and functioning. There's nothing here. The situation has deteriorated so badly. The European Union is sending troops. You've got French troops here. You've got African Union troops here. There is talk of converting this in a few months' time into a UN peacekeeping mission. I think what we would all say now is that we urgently need more troops, more police on the ground now. You have to have a degree of security and stability to give people hope. And with the troops that we have in the country right now, given the size of the country and the scale of the problem, with the best will in the world, those troops are not able to provide the security that's required across the whole of the country.
Valerie Amos there talking to France 24 from Bangui. Now to a man who is one of Africa's foremost photographers, whose house was looted in Bangui earlier this month. Fortunately, though, the pictures of Samuel FOSSO were saved. France 24's Nicolas Germain and Rémi Longois met up with him in Paris.
This house in Bangui belongs to one of Africa's most important living photographers, Samuel FOSSO. Earlier this month, it was ransacked. We meet FOSSO in Paris. He fled here a few days before his home was looted.
They only left what they didn't understand, like my photographs, my negatives. It wasn't important for them.
Fortunately, photojournalist Jérôme Delay was in Bangui covering the violence. He recognized the photos and negatives lying in front of a house, and with Human Rights Watch, he collected them and gave them this week to FOSSO.
The children that day apparently said, "Look, a white man is looting."
FOSSO has only just got the pictures back. He has ambivalent feelings.
I'm happy to get them back. But at the same time, I'm sad because some are damaged, even burnt. But that's part of my story now.
FOSSO broke into the art world at the biennial exhibition in Bamako in 1994. His self-portraits are now worth thousands of euros and can be seen at the Centre Pompidou or the MoMA in New York. His agent Jean-Marc Patras remains optimistic despite the chaos in the Central African Republic.
I'm convinced that Samuel's work will still be celebrated once we're dead. After these recent events, Samuel is not just an artist, but also a public figure. He acts as a conscience for our time.
FOSSO is also hopeful. He's a Christian who lives in the heart of Miskin, a Muslim neighborhood in Bangui.
I hope it will still be possible for Christians and Muslims to live together in harmony again. That is my wish.
Samuel FOSSO now hopes to return to Bangui as soon as possible to continue his self-portraits in a more serene atmosphere.
I hope he manages to. Here's the latest news headlines now. More attempts by Ukraine's police through the night to push back protesters on Kiev's Independence Square. There's some latest live images for you there. Ukraine's president blaming the opposition for the violence. Officially, 11 protesters and 7 police have now been killed there. Venezuela's opposition leader says an emotional farewell to his family as he gives himself up to soldiers and is led away. And the UN's aid chief tells France 24 they're doing what they can to help people affected by the humanitarian crisis in the Central African Republic. Stephen's got business for us. Back to Peugeot Citroën. We've got results, haven't we, from the car maker?
Yeah, just in the past half an hour we have the company's results for 2013. It lost €2.3 billion last year. Might sound bad, but not as bad as in 2012 when it lost $5 billion, so a slightly improving situation at the company. It's also burning less cash. It used up just 426 million of its reserves to keep afloat last year. Compare that to 2012 when it was burning some €3 billion over the course of the year. This after a massive restructuring effort at the firm, which has seen it cut 11,000 jobs between when the programme started in 2015. This announcement also saw the confirmation of Peugeot Citroën's tie-up with the Chinese car maker Dongfeng. Under the deal, Dongfeng will invest €800 million for a 14% stake in the company. That's going to be matched by a 14% stake from the French government, and the Peugeot family will lose control of the company for the first time in its 200-year history. Their stake will also be reduced to an equivalent 14%. Now, the two companies are going to cooperate in areas like technology and manufacturing. But this isn't the first deal Dongfeng has done with a European car manufacturer, as Oliver Farry now explains.
Relations haven't always been so warm between PSA and Dongfeng. The Chinese company, meaning East Wind in Mandarin, came into being in 1969 at the height of the Cultural Revolution by decree of Mao Zedong. Over 2 decades later, in the early 90s, Dongfeng signed an agreement with Peugeot Citroën, which started off well but soon stagnated. The reality was PSA was not too interested in the Chinese market. Relations were strained between the two companies. Dongfeng accused PSA of indifference and engaged with other partners such as Honda and most recently Renault and Volvo, with whom it embarked on joint ventures worth €825 million and €1.4 billion respectively. The Wuhan-based company has become a giant. In total, it produces 3 million vehicles per year. It employs 150,000 people and has global ambitions. Now PSA is belatedly investing, and relations between the two companies are improving.
The Chinese market is very important for PSA, and a lot of the technologies developed by the company interest Dongfeng. It's a win-win situation for both.
PSA intends opening up its research office to Dongfeng and sharing its own exclusive hybrid technology. But there's more in it than that for Dongfeng, allowing what is already the world's 9th biggest car builder to get a foothold in the global market.
So Dongfeng's shares then, Stephen, how have they reacted to that news?
Well, they had been suspended yesterday, as we remember, when the details of that deal were being ironed out. In Hong Kong today, Dongfeng's shares, though, down over 1%. Investors not too impressed with news of this tie-up with Peugeot Citroën. Investors also on the rest of the Asian markets, a reasonably lacklustre day. Investors watching closely as China's central bank drained funds in the money market on Tuesday. The Nikkei in Tokyo has actually just closed a little bit lower down than those figures there. It's just down over 1% at the closing price. This after the gains we saw yesterday when the Bank of Japan announced its changes to its monetary policy.
Going to go to the UK next. The Scottish Government's bringing in new financial powers in the run-up to its independence referendum.
Yeah, the UK Treasury says the Scottish Government will be allowed to issue its own bonds from 2015. The money will give, or the powers rather, will give Scotland the ability to borrow its own money on the international markets to finance spending agreed by ministers in Edinburgh. In a statement, the UK Finance Ministry warned that Scotland's borrowing costs may be higher than those that it currently experiences by borrowing as part of the UK, though. This just the latest twist in the debate as the debate heats up ahead of Scotland's independence referendum in September, particularly the use of the pound being one of the key issues in that referendum.
Plenty of companies is around today. What's caught your eye then, Steve?
We're going to start with the French bank Crédit Agricole, which has announced its return to profit of €2.5 billion last year. That followed a loss of €6.5 billion in 2012. The bank had a particularly strong end to the year. Revenues rose by over 20% to €4 billion between October and December. As a result, Crédit Agricole is to pay its shareholders a dividend for the first time in 4 years. Shares in Coca-Cola plunged 3.75% after the drink seller saw its profits fall in the last 3 months of 2013. The company's US sales were down 1% in North America. It plans to cut costs by another $1 billion by 2016, money which will be reinvested in marketing. And Ferrari posted a €246 million profit for last year, up 5% on 2012. Even as the Italian carmaker sold fewer cars, revenues came in at an all-time high of €2.3 billion. Ferrari's success is seen to highlight the success of luxury car makers, while the mass-market car industry is still suffering.
And finally, love is in the air. France has finally fallen in love. This is with low-cost airlines, though, Le Ryanair and Le EasyJet.
Exactly. The number of passengers flying from French airports using those low-cost airlines went up by 9% last year. Cheap flights now account for almost a quarter of all traffic through French airports, and more than 50% at 14 terminals around France. 172 million people in all took flights through French airports last year. That was up 2.3%. Paris's Orly Airport was the most popular amongst low-cost airline travellers, though 7.3 million of them using operators like Ryanair and EasyJet. They've, of course, been eating into the market of traditional carriers. We'll be seeing the effects of that in Air France's results, which are due out tomorrow.
OK, Stephen, of course, will keep us up to date with that. Thanks very much. Now we're going to have a look at what's grabbing headlines here in France. Right-wing daily Le Figaro, let me guess, very critical of the government's responsibility pact, I suspect.
That's right. Surprise, surprise. It's the right-wing paper. Today it's talking about